You're listening to 104.7 The Box.
Welcome to The Box. My name is Blake Barnum.
And I'm David Botsford.
And I'm Quentin James, son of LeBron James.
Today, we have a topic.
What's that, Blake Barnum?
It's a topic.
What's our topic for today?
We're going to be discussing Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury and its real-world comparisons.
Today we're going to be comparing dystopian features from the book to their real-world counterparts like Russia, North Korea, and the Line in Saudi Arabia.
Whew, the Line. That's something to talk about. An upcoming project, a vertical city 110 kilometers long in Saudi Arabia, funded solely by the company Neom. Let's get into it.
Don't let me get started on North Korea. I mean, so many loose ends.
And last but not least, Russia. From the USSR to the Soviet Union, we got a lot to talk about.
That's a lot to get into, but let's start with the Line. It's an 110 kilometer long city in Saudi Arabia, vertical, about 71 kilometers tall, and it has self-sustaining infrastructure like plants, shops, and a bunch of jobs.
Did you know that it can house up to 9 million people at once?
9 million people. That's a lot of people to put in a small vertical
That's a lot
city.
of folks.
Yeah. Sounds a little interesting, but you might be thinking, how does it compare to the book? Well, if you take a look at Fahrenheit 451, everyone in that society is content. They're happy with the technology. They're happy with everything they have.
What's that about technology?
Man, everyone in the Fahrenheit 451 universe is consumed by technology. Like Mildred and her family, which is just a TV on the wall. That's crazy.
See, their whole lives consumed by one thing, taking away all their individuality and what makes them different from the rest.
See, that really confuses me. I hate how people can be so attached to screens, and that's kind of where we're going in this day and age.
Right, and when you look at that, when it comes to, for instance, North Korea, it is a lot different than other places. They use their technology to censor the people. They change what they can see on the news. All their phones are tracked. It's truly crazy to me.
It is. And it's just like, you got to think about the Line. It's set to be done by 2060. By that time, the technology in the Line is going to be beyond fathom of current technology today. So it begs the question, will people in that society end up just like the people in Fahrenheit 451, consumed by technology of the Line?
I think it's very possible, and it's not unreasonable to say that eventually these people will become similar to people in Fahrenheit 451, based solely off of the fact of the premises of the technology taking over, and they're so focused on technology. You already see it today on your phone, watching
It's
YouTube,
everywhere.
all that. It's everywhere. So I think eventually, it's not impossible to say that it'll come around like that.
I feel like that the Line is so condensed, and there's a lot of people inside of it, but they're still all going to be separated. I think it'll become factions more than the whole.
Another question that needs to be raised is, do you think the people living in the Line will succumb to technology by being forced upon by the government, or do you think it'll be by their own choice? Because people can either choose to buy technology in their own homes nowadays, or is the Line going to be integrated with so much technology that people don't really have a choice?
I feel like that the people on the Line will already have technology built in. Like you said, it'll already be 2060, so I think the advancement that we have, there'll already be TVs everywhere. There'll already be screens. There'll already be phones built in.
It's not a choice as much as it is natural. They're going to move into a society where they're already surrounded by all the technology that we think of that could take over and separate them in a weird way.
I agree. We've already adapted to phones and computers and TV screens everywhere, and I think that it'll become a larger society condensed by technology.
Being as it is condensed by technology, there's going to be a lot of, you got to think about it, it's a vertical city, so there's going to be a lot of ventilation and wire passageways because it's a technological marvel.
Yeah.
So they're going to need to build maintenance shafts and stuff like that. And you got to think, well, civilians aren't really allowed to go in there unless they're working, right? But not everyone's going to be working maintenance. So will they install cameras to monitor those areas? Where are they going to put cameras? And how is the surveillance going to be in the Line?
And I like that question because it also brings up another question: is who's running the Line? Who's going to be in charge?
I think
the
company is going to eventually it'd be easy for them to make their way into more of a control, separation of government.
But at the same time, the company is building it in Saudi Arabia, so they're gonna still have to follow Saudi Arabia government rules.
But it's not crazy to say that they will try to change and get different, because even here in the U.S. and Disney in Florida, they try to get their own laws with like alcohol and everything. It's weird, like try to build their own little society in the
Right.
U.S.
And this predicted level of surveillance is just like Fahrenheit 451, because in that society, even though the books were banned by the people, there is still a fire force which constantly monitors who has books and whatnot, and they even have a mechanical hound, which is like CCTV in a way, except killer, that like on the patrol. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
It's crazy to think about that. That's a very possible direction for our society to head in.
I feel like the security measures inside the line will be very effective, but they'll also be very scary because we don't know what they will produce and what they will be.
And we can very easily relate this to North Korea in a way, because the way that they use technology to control their citizens is beyond what anyone would have thought it to be 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Tell me about that, David. I'm not very well versed in North Korea.
Well,
so
in North Korea, any phone or radio or any system that you get is automatically set to only be Korean channels that you're allowed to listen to. And they're one-sided, which means North Korean phones cannot have a conversation with someone outside of North Korea. Everything is stuck there. They chip everybody's phone. Any electronic or published book or any like literature you bring in is checked by the government and has to be deemed by the police to be okay to be there.
that's just like the text, like the magazines in Fahrenheit 51. Like they have to be
Sneak
specific,
the books around.
and they all have they're pushing an agenda, which
Exactly.
is kind of just like North Korea. And another thing too, what you said in the beginning about North Korea and how they're pushing out TV stations and radio channels specified by the North Korean government. And again, it draws back to Mildred and her family. The TV on the wall. I mean, she's succumbed to this technology, but the only thing that's on air is stuff pushed out by the government, like what people have voted to see. It's all controlled.
And for Mildred, this just seems normal. It seems like
Right.
she accepted it and it's not hurting her. It's not affecting her. She's grown with it. And I feel like in this society, we're growing with technology, and this could, in fact, interrupt what we have going on.
It's a lot like North Korea, too, because everyone there has... Like, you've never really seen a revolution in North Korea, because everyone's kind of just, they're alright with it.
You could almost say they don't know any better. Like, if you keep people quiet and don't let them learn, how are they going to know what to change or how to move on in the future?
Yeah.
In Fahrenheit 451, there's limited bans on books. Like, they ban the books that they don't want people knowing. And one of those books happened to be the Bible. So it wouldn't be crazy to assume that in this society, you don't have the freedom of religion that they want. Like, you could, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
like, they try to censor your freedom of religion. And with that, it's very closely related to North Korea. Because they have no freedom of religion in North Korea at all.
But in North Korea, do you think it's because the people want to be that religion, or do you think it's because of the government? You got to think about in the Fahrenheit 451 society, the people chose this reality. The people made it this way.
Right. No, that definitely is a difference and it's a good comparison to make, because in North Korea it's more forced upon the people. They're not allowed to have that. And I guess technically in Fahrenheit 451, they chose the society they live in.
In North Korea, you said they chose the society they live in. Do you think there's outsiders, just like in Fahrenheit 451, that choose or want to be outside of the country or want to have a different reality of life?
So, I'll correct what you were saying. You misspoke a little bit. It's all right. But in North Korea, they didn't choose. They're forced.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
is there outsiders in North Korea? They have a problem in North Korea with smuggling in information and not illegal, you know what I'm saying? Illegal books and illegal everything. So I do believe that there is people living in North Korea that are outsiders that are almost like Montag in a way, where they're stuck in a society that they know is wrong, they don't want to be in, but they can't find an escape.
Like, can't get out. It's pulling them from side to side, and I think that's really a major part in dystopian societies, is who is the people that are trying to stick out and who are the people that want to escape.
Did you say escape? Let's talk about the gulag. Let's get into Russia, baby.
Now, Millie Lightskin, take it away.
During COVID, Russia had a mass security lockdown. Cameras were placed everywhere. In March 18th, 2020, 200 people had been identified not following quarantine, and that was due to the amount of surveillance they had.
So what happens in Russia when they got caught?
Hold on. Before you ask another question, is that like so people being surveillanced in their own homes?
They're being surveilled everywhere, I feel like. It's mostly in...
Because they'd have to know when they leave and come back and like where they're going. So
Yeah.
It's outside of their homes, in the streets, and I guess you can say we really don't own like the streets, I'd say. So as soon as you walk out, they're filming you. They know what's happening.
So relating to what we talked about earlier, what do you think is a good comparison with the book when it comes to technology in Russia?
I feel like the cameras or the Hound even would be a good comparison, because the Hound, it's constantly tracking. It knows where you are. It knows what you're doing. And like when Monte came back to the firehouse and the Hound wasn't there, the Hound was out. It was surveilling. It was doing stuff. And I think that could kind of be compared to Russia, because Russia has cameras everywhere. They always know what you're doing and they always know where you're at.
So you think...
Oh, I'm sorry. But would you say the government is kind of like the firefighters in this instance, like hunting people down for their own benefit, or do you think it's for Russia's own benefit, or do you think it's like the firefighters for the people's benefit?
I think it's for Russia's benefit. I feel like Russia wants to have that stabilization and that control to where they know what's happening, and I think it's for security reasons.
And with that, I would like to ask, do you think that the people, like, because in the book, it's more of the people made the society they live in. In Russia, do you think it's similar to that, or do you think it boils down to a dictator who just wants his power in his way?
That's a good question. I don't think it's either of those, really. I think it's a country that really wants to protect what's inside of it, but also they might have plans outside of that. People in this society didn't choose to live there, and it's kind of relating to North Korea. They don't have a choice. They can't escape. They can't get out, because that's all they've known. That's all they've ever known.
But I think in Russia, it's kind of a case because you got to take a look back at their history and the long line of poverty they came from. The people there really don't have much, you know. There's not. I mean, have you seen videos of Russia, bro? People riding around in like beat up old like Russian mobiles, bro. I mean, come on.
So do you think that they have them more stuck in like they don't have the means to escape if they wanted to, or do you think it's they're like too dumb to know better?
They don't have the education. It gets into the poverty cycle. There's a similar poverty cycle in Russia, like America. So,
and like America, most people are stuck in the middle class in Russia and can't escape. Most landowners up until about 40 years ago were rich landowners. They were rich people.
And that inability to escape, do you think it's kind of similar to Fahrenheit 451's reality, how they're all trapped in their own like selfishness? Like, you think it's the government selfishness that is keeping Russia there?
I think it is the government's selfishness, and I think it's affecting their community, and it's going to be affecting their country for a long, long time.
And look at how they react when it comes to the war in Ukraine. They didn't really care much about Russia itself and the people who lived in Russia. They were so focused on their own goals. And you can kind of relate that to the war going on in the book. None of the citizens in the book are like acknowledging or taking part in the war. They just act like it's not happening while they're living.
Right, and that's just like Russia. It's kind of like they just kind of ignore it. The people don't really like. It's kind of like a gray area almost. I mean, I haven't really heard much from Russia.
And I think in Fahrenheit 451, they're fed information all the time, but it's not good information. It's pointless, meaningless, just filling information to fill their time and
jibber jabber. Talk about yapping.
And to bring us all to a conclusion, you know, the dystopian story going on in the book is just, it's almost scarily easy to relate to real life. Like the Russia, the line in Saudi Arabia, and we got North Korea. There's many other places. These are just a few subjects that we touched on. You got China. We didn't even get into all that.
America even?
The U.S. alone, we live here. We don't even know.
And there's just dystopian factors you could find in every society, I think. There's a lot of examples.
And you got to think about, too, the book was written in 1953. And it still can be applied to modern day things like the line, which hasn't even been constructed yet. It's just an idea But I mean, it's in construction, but like it's not in fruition fully.
In the time that this book was written, this was merely just a thought or an idea, an ideology of what could happen in the future.
Ray Bradbury.
Here we are,
Crazy
living
guy.
in the future that he imagined.
So long ago too. 1953. That's at least 70 years.
Hello? Okay, bye. Hey, me and Millie Lightskin gotta go. It was a good one.
Hey, thank you guys for coming out to the box today.
Hey, of course,
Yeah.
thank you.
I hope
Hey.
you guys, the audience, enjoyed it. As always, we'll be back for another one next week, Thursday.
This week
Perfect.
Thursday.
See you there.
See y'all then. Hello?
The box.